Hello, and welcome to the Growing in Business interview series. I'm your host, Fleming Johnson, and today I'm joined by Dwight Wilhelm, who is CEO at Graphene Networks. Dwight, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Fleming.
Would you like to kick us off with a brief background as to who you are and what you do?
Sure. Well, as you mentioned, my name is Dwight Wilhelm. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Graphene Networks. Graphene Networks is a managed network services provider. We focus on software-defined WAN, edge security, remote access solutions, pretty much anything network related, really, what we call the glue of the network. That's been our business focus since inception. Obviously, things change and we grow. I myself have more than a decade of experience in the software-defined WAN edge network environment and was a network engineer before that. Worked for big managed services providers like big global companies, IT, Fed, and the like, and brought that skill into Graphene to be this kind of one-stop shop for small, medium, and mid enterprise businesses.
Very good. What are some common misconceptions about running a business, and how do you address them?
Common misconceptions about running a business. One, that it's going to be easy. I think everybody thinks that they know that I already know how to sell or I already know how to do this thing. Um, and that's great, but it has nothing at all to do with running a business. And solving that, and this is going to be a reoccurring theme. Solving that is really about a support network, right? There's millions of people that have built businesses, and the first thing that I learned was somebody already knows how to do almost everything that I'm already doing. And it's just a matter of finding that person. But that the initial misconception of like, oh yeah, I can just step in and, you know, I can set up an accounting software. I can do those things. It all sounds easy until you have to ask your question, how do I do taxes? Like, what am I collecting? Like those types of things. That is the number one biggest impediment for when I started this business.
Very good. So, how do you maintain a work-life balance as a business owner? Do you have any personal rituals or habits that keep you motivated and focused?
Initially, when I started this business 3 years ago, there was no such thing as work-life balance. And I think the idea of trying to maintain work-life balance and not feel anxious and upset with yourself for not working, it's a losing battle. Like during the initial phases, there's no way that you're going to succeed if you just say, I'm just going to stop work for a week. It just doesn't exist. But work-life balance can come over time. And I've found that after the initial first 6 months of like just fighting to figure out how to do business, which is, as I mentioned, that's the hard part. After you're through that, like I learned that I had to create a ritual. You'll see CEOs of major companies talk about going to bed early, getting up early, getting those times. And I'm not as extreme. I can't go to bed at 9:30, right? I just can't do it. But I have found that my nighttime ritual, instead of watching TV for 2 hours, was reading something, anything to take my mind away from the work. Because I think the work-life balance isn't just about going on a date night with your spouse or going golfing with buddies or anything like that. It's the small moments of just divesting yourself of the work to allow yourself to sleep better or be better in the next morning. So I had a nighttime reading schedule that had nothing to do with work, nothing to do with networking technology or anything, right? And then the morning, I had a routine that had nothing to do with work. It was, whatever my breakfast, coffee routine, watching animals, taking 30 minutes out of my morning to just reset and say, I need to think about my day um, when I'm done, letting my brain wake up. That part of the work-life balance was more important than at least initially during that first year, that was more important to keeping my sanity than all of the other trips. Because I can tell you, the minute I stepped away from work, when I took a family vacation, work-life balance didn't, like suddenly become a thing. I still took my work with me, right? So the you can't have that misconception of work-life balance is real. Now later on, as success became a thing, I found that I took, like I was already working 60-hour weeks by the time Thursday was over. So why not take Friday morning to do something for myself? Why not take a weekend day to do something for myself? I think that's really critical. You might have people that would argue differently, but even if it's 4 hours on a Saturday is something utterly dedicated to you personally, gardening, going on a bike ride, going to a market, going to play golf, whatever those things are, that 4 hours changed my whole perception of the weekend, whether or not I felt like it was mine. So that's how I maintain my work-life balance now as we've been in business long.
Good. In the constantly evolving business landscape, how do you stay adaptable and open to change? Are there any specific strategies that you use to remain innovative?
Innovation is really key in almost any technical field, but any business field in general, it's really, really a requirement. I mean, especially now, AI is changing how we do every single thing. I think it's a mindset more than a process, right? It's certainly there are things you can do. I find that, reading technical journals or magazines is kind of droll, and sometimes you can't always gather that. Um, but if you want to innovate, it's easier to gather that from other people who are also innovating. So again, my reoccurring theme is that doing anything by yourself as a business owner is a misnomer and, in my opinion, a mistake. So surrounding yourself with people who are either in your industry or in like-minded industry and having a regular cadence of discussion. When you try to solve a problem, say, hey, look, I noticed that I lost this deal because of X, or I noticed that somebody else is in the market for this product solution, whatever, somebody else is probably looking at that as well. And it's those types of communication and being open to that help you. It is very hard to adopt new innovative procedures like that. That is a challenge that every business owner is going to have to face at some point. But it's also critical. So I personally evaluate my market every 6 months because in my industry within networking and security technology, there's probably some new thing or term that has evolved every 6 months. For some industries, that's faster. AI is definitely one of those, and that takes its own toll on us. But every 6 months, I look back and say, have there been any new product releases? Have there been any new service releases? Has a competitor of mine released a new quote unquote solution? That is a necessary part of identifying required network changes. And in my industry, I work through the channel. So everybody that brings me deals is well connected. They often see deals differently than I do. And asking them what's winning, what they're seeing as an advantage is a key part of identifying the changes I need to make. And then I plan on making a new go-to-market strategy every single fiscal year. And that might not be a major shift. It could be just one or two line items, but that innovation is required because each fiscal year brings new challenges, whether it's an election or changes in you see tariffs or whatever that might be. That's how I maintain my innovation. But it all starts with the willingness to say, I'm going to be flexible. I'm going to deliver whatever my customers need inside of the context of my expertise.
Excellent. Could you now offer us a glimpse into your future plans and goals for your business?
Yeah,
What do you envision for, say, the next chapter of your entrepreneurial journey?
I think speaking about entrepreneurial journeys, for those of us who've had the bug, we probably have been experiencing it our entire lives. Like I remember early on trying to create my own businesses, shoveling snow or, selling lemonade, whatever those things are that we did as children, and finding it fascinating. So it started for me at a very early age. And then I lived in the corporate, and academic environments for a long time, and that kind of kills entrepreneurial spirit a little bit. Uh, but when you come back to it, um, I think this business has taught me a tremendous amount because it's the first business that I did where I stepped away from the big corporations and I'm taking a big risk, putting everything into this business, and it changes your perspective on being an entrepreneur. And some people love it, which I do, even with the challenges. And some people find that it's not what they want to do, and they find their way out very quickly. Now, I've found that I really enjoyed it, And I knew that regardless of what happened with this business, I was going to do other businesses. They might not be in this field, they might be an iteration of it. This business in particular was always designed to be a grow and sell business. Now, like, we're deciding as a company, is it 5 years? Is it 7 years? What does that number look like to exit? But this business has always been the let's build it, let's create something unique, and then let's find a home for it and use that as leverage for the next business. But in addition to this, like, I'm always looking for other opportunities. So, we're looking for me in the next couple of years. I will probably have launched, a second or third business that's outside of this that is designed to be a complementary service. So, and I think if you look at a lot of entrepreneurs, they have their hands in two, three, four different things. I look to be more involved with, board of directors types activities, because I think that's a great way. We talked about innovation earlier, is getting involved with other businesses. Not only do you learn new ways to handle what you're doing, but you're able to take your experience and apply it to other businesses, which is its own kind of rewarding thing. So yeah, I see from my journey over the next 5 years, I will probably, be doing at least a couple other businesses at that point.
And finally, what advice would you offer to aspiring entrepreneurs who are, say, just starting their journey or facing challenges in their businesses?
Well, again, I will reiterate one more time. It is so critical that you find people to talk to, people who have done it. It doesn't have to be a formal coaching situation, but there are plenty of groups out there that are business groups, and there's an investment you can make into those groups for your time. It could be a few hours a month, a couple hours a week, but the speed with which you will improve your efficiency as a business owner and the enjoyability of that business will dramatically improve if you invest your time into learning how to do your business better through others. Um, all of my struggles, all of the struggles I've had could have been solved much quicker had I not spent the first 6 months trying to reinvent the wheel on how to do a business. And it wasn't until months 10 through, 18 where I was like finally saying, I can't solve this on my own. I don't know how. And I started asking questions of my investors, of my board of directors, of other companies in my space. And you'll find that there's a lot of friendlies. You might be a competitor with some, but you're not necessarily a competitor with an individual, and they will help, because we all ultimately in this business want to succeed, or in your industry want to succeed. And as entrepreneurs, I think we all want to see other entrepreneurs succeed. And that was the thing that got me through the hardest times, is just identifying people who can give trusted advice on how to smooth that transition into the workspace, into the business, whatever. It could be tools, right? Like, hey, I know a really simple tool for you that will solve this problem. um, I personally invested in an accounting group to take care of the financials. That was never my strong suit. So if you're like me and you don't like to do all the books and handle billing and handle invoicing and all that stuff, then that's a worthwhile tool for you, especially, if that's not your expertise. But finding some type of professional advice is an absolute key as early as you can, even before you start the business. Because just starting it took us a while to figure out all those pieces. So that's my biggest piece of advice to everybody: find that trusted advisor.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Dwight. It was great to meet you and learn more about your entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you, Fleming. I appreciate your time.
And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode. Okay, that went well.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Those are fun questions, like,
Yeah.
again, I think about them a lot, so it's not difficult.
Well, it's really interesting with each different person that I've talked to. Everyone's in kind of a different place.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what you allude to is there's a fair amount once you commit to do something like this, there's a fair amount of self-discovery.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
uh, as you said, like the accounting piece.
Oh man, it's my least favorite thing. Like, I
Oh,
hate finances, but you have to
but
know how to do them.
that's
Yeah.
right.
And You're right about the self-discovery. It's a thing that I think every business owner goes through when they start this. Like, first off, I was like, do I have any business doing this? Like, because there's a lot of fake it till you make it. You're trying to figure out what customers want to hear, what you need to achieve. Like, when we first started, everybody's out there trying to get certifications and technical things. And you look like, okay, am I really suited to do this? Can I handle this? Because you can't turn it off as a business owner. That's a mistake that a lot of people do. It's something when you ask me about work-life balance, like you really have to understand that there's no such thing as work-life balance early in the phase. That comes with success. It's a mandatory part eventually, otherwise people burn out. But man, it's hard to figure out if you've got it. And I've had investors and other business partners who are like, I just no, I can't do this. Like, they're not willing to be the person who takes the call at 2 o'clock in the morning, right? Whatever that might be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Very good. Where are you located?
I'm in North Carolina.
Yeah, I am also.
Okay.
What part
Yeah,
of North
I'm
Carolina?
in Apex. I'm just, if you know where that's at, just outside of Raleigh, next to Cary.
Yes, yes. Very good. And tell me about your team now.
Yeah, I
You,
have we've got three co-founders, myself, and one that works for the business full time, and one that works for the business part time as kind of a fractional CRO, if you will, while he works. We don't always have all the money we want to just throw people at it. So he took the hit to go work elsewhere because I could do the selling part, and that was really the least important part of the initial aspect of this. And then I've got a group of engineers, a chunk in Utah. That's where one of the business partners at. So we have engineers out there. And substantial portion of our business is done there. And then I've got engineers that are kind of spread across the country, that do kind of ad hoc work. And then I've got a chunk of support people in the Philippines that provide us a really, really good low cost way of increasing our staff so that we could meet the goals, meet the requirements of some of our bigger customers.
and what is your product?
Yeah, so we don't have a product, we have 20 products. Um, the idea is, we live in the networking, security, and connectivity
Okay.
world. So I sell Palo Alto and Fortinet and Cisco and a lot of big manufacturers, as well as some smaller solutions that are probably less known. So we kind of have a mix of tried and true products and then some cutting edge, because there's always somebody who wants something that does something a little different. Um, and then the big part of what we do is we wrap everything into a managed service. So we have customers like, hey, I want to buy a firewall, but I don't have the IT team to manage it, deploy it, whatever. So my team deploys it, does remote management, makes sure best practices are met. So we take on that burden for them and provide a monthly service. And a lot of our service devices and stuff we're providing essentially as a leased service, which 10 years ago, everybody bought and owned everything they had, and they might have somebody install it. And every now and then they paid somebody to manage it for them. And now everybody's buying stuff and they just want to lease it. They don't want to take on the ownership. They don't want to have to deal with, depreciating assets. So my field has grown exponentially. I think we have a 50% CAGR, and that's growing annually. So I think, managed services by themselves are a $20 billion a year type of industry in the United States alone. So that's kind of where we aimed our business and our market. We do all the other stuff, installs and whatever, make sure that we can provide a solution for whatever customer, because sometimes they just want to buy and own it, have somebody install it for them, train it, and then walk away. So we provide that flexible level of service. And to be honest, like, our profit margins are on the service are really where we make our money. Like, hardware is not a place to make money.
Sure,
So,
sure, sure.
we sell hardware, but we're aiming to sell service. So
And so your target markets are any
uh,
specific industry or any type of industry,
it,
and is more what
we
they're looking for?
Yeah, we can do any industry. I mean, where we've had a lot of success are industries that have critical infrastructure. So, meaning I don't do a lot of retail. For one, the profit margins are very low because they often have a big footprint and they expect everything to be done at a very small margin, and it takes a huge amount of people. So I stay out of enterprise for the most part because those sales cycles are 3 years long. And I focus on your larger SMB. So think places with at least 50 employees, preferably, to your mid-market companies that have maybe a couple thousand employees, maybe a few thousand employees in times, and they have location counts somewhere between one and a few hundred. Um, and then in terms of verticals that I would aim at, I do what we've had success in, healthcare, because everything they do is critical, and they're way understaffed with IT. They always are understaffed. So healthcare's been big. Banking, especially credit unions, or small regional banks. Manufacturing, again, critical infrastructure is a key connector here. But manufacturing is common. They have infrastructure like their ERP platforms can't go down, and everybody's in a shift to the cloud, and so their networks are changing, and they have no idea how to manage it. So, that's industries that are having that big shift. We tend to get a good footprint in. We also do a ton in the alarm monitoring industry. It's been a
Mm,
surprising thing, but so you can imagine that's life or death, and they need systems that have 5 nines uptime. And so we had some partners that were there. They brought us in, and we've seen a lot of success. But every other industry out there is open games. We have some education, the like. The important piece is really where we find success is when they have a network that if it goes down, it either costs them money or has implications for people's security.
excellent. Well, it sounds like it's been quite a journey. For how many years? You said you started 3 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So I stepped away. So December of 21, I quit my job working for another managed service provider, and we formulated the company in January of 22. Um, and then I started having discussions with partners and investors, and that took us about 9 months to actually have money in the bank from investors. But in that journey, in that process, we incorporated the business. Well, started a new business, incorporated it. So on paper, it looks like we started in May of 22, but we actually really started in January of 22. Got our first investment in June. This is enough to keep me going because I had no income. Like 9 months of nothing, right? As we got things working out.
Hmm.
And then we got money, I think August, September, spent the first 3 months just marketing, just figuring out how the heck do we go to market? Who are our partners going to be? Who's willing to sell what we do? But by January of 23, we had our first customer. Um, we added 25 customers our first full year in operation. I think we had another 25 in our second year of operation. I've added 5 new customers at the beginning of this year, and it's been interesting because you start out with these little bitty deals, and we had one of our investors brought us into a deal, so that helped us give a big bump. One of the first deals we did was one that was a former customer of one of our former employer,
Hmm.
and that was a huge deal for us because the profit margins were very good, and that win kind of set us on the right path. But like it takes a lot of time to become a profitable business when you're just, you're working in smaller companies. So we've grown in terms of number of customers, but it's hard to get, you have to get a couple of those big ones, the big signature wins, that really kind of puts you over the edge. Those are the ones where we've big pipeline, huge deals, but they just take time.
Yeah,
It's been a fun,
yeah,
like there are days where I love it and days where I'm like, I'm ready to just sell and walk away, like I just want to walk away.
yeah. Some days doing it feels really cool, and you're accomplishing things, and days it
Um,
feels like a job.
Yeah, that's right. Like yesterday was a 7 a.m. start and a 9 p.m. finish, and with just enough time to get food in. And those are the days where like, I really, really hate this. But though that extra bit of work made me prepared for my call today, and that
Yeah,
took us to the next step with a customer. And
yeah,
that's the thing that you have to be willing to do. That's the hard part that I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like there are sacrifices that you absolutely have to make You cannot start a business. I mean, I shouldn't say that. There are businesses that have started with practically no effort because they just had something incredible. And, that's great. But 99.99% of businesses, there are sacrifices to be made if you want to be successful. And that means there's some nights that you don't get to, go to bed early. There's some nights that you don't get to see your family. And those are the differentiators, and I think in success.
Well, it's outstanding. I think you speak well of the journey. It's been great meeting you and learning more about your entrepreneurial journey. And to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.